Hello, welcome back to another session. In this session, we will look at loops, dictionaries, and lists. We will be comparing two different kind of loops. We looked at for loop, which is rather simple to start with. We'll also see while loop in this session, which would be interesting, and do some comparison over the processing we did in the last session. So once we understand the differences, it will be easier for our journey through Python. So let's talk about the previous session. Just a quick recap, and to this effect, let's see the list. So if you see the list which you have got, the list is Jack, Jane, Ahmed, Amit, and Ariel. So this is just a list of names, like this list of students in a class or customers on an e-commerce website. Now, on the other hand, we have got a dictionary. It differs from the list in the sense that the list above is simple. Let's look at the first row of the dictionary, which says name is Jack. It says age is 25. Earlier, we just recorded name, but we didn't say what it was. So when you store data in a structure which also which contains some key data, what is its metadata? So when you talk about metadata, metadata primarily means data about data. If you create an Excel sheet, what do you call the columns on the first row? You put name, age, address. So those are the things which we will refer to as metadata. So it gives you an idea of what is coming next. So you put names under names, age under age. Similarly, but this goes horizontally for easy reference. And if you see what we have done something very interesting. It has got one more row which has got Jane as the next row and the age is 24. So we have created a list of dictionaries. So lists can be simple or it can be a little bit more complex containing a dictionary. So let's look at the while loop. While loop is similar to for loop, but it differs. And it differs to the extent that while loop gives you certain control, but as it gives you the control, it expects you to take care of certain things. It's like driving in a driving stick on your car or driving auto. When it comes to auto, there are certain things which are taken care of you, but then it will happen in a certain pace. If you are driving stick, then it gives you more control, but it also gives you more responsibility. So to this extent, let's just switch to the code and take it from there.
So, as we were saying, the process of starting off with your session starts with opening Google Drive. So it comes to recent. By default, you won't find any files there. Just to remind you, go back into Google Drive because that's where Collaboratory will store your files. If you click on Google Drive, you'll notice the list of files which have been created for you. So you could click that to open and it'll open that up for you. Right, so we are back into the file. So what we just did review a moment ago was about the where to locate your file which you're working from the previous session. So now that you have located where the file is, and let's just do a recap on the code. We did a for loop. We saw dictionaries were key values, like we saw earlier with name and age and all those things. So if you ran that, let's, for the purposes of a reference, just add a 2 at the end, and it did that. Now this is the for loop. It looks fairly straightforward, correct? Now let's go to while. The while is the proverbial driving stick on your car. So as they call it, manual. It gives you more control, but then it takes more responsibility from the driver. So as you take more responsibility from you, what it does is, if you see this code, just without even understanding, you know there are more lines in here. So what we have said is, I want to start with the 0th position of those keys, and I want to loop through them, right? Let's just make this more simplistic. Instead of going to a dictionary, let's go to a list. Yeah, since we are here, let's just look at something interesting. You see this up arrow? This whole cell will move up. You see this? Now what was here moved up here. That's sort of a nice feature if you want to reorder your learning or your experiments as you get into data science at some day in the future. It allows you to change the order, and that's one of the beauties of a notebook. All right, so and plus you can run it in your browser, so that's awesome. So now back to the list, which says, now I got Jack, Ahmed, Jose, and Amit. Right, let's just see what this does. The simple list printed all of it, but here I had a variable called index. Like I said before, variables are things which can change in value. We can say 1. You see Jack, Ahmed, there are 4 of these, and I'm going to start from, see, it just printed 1 less because the starting position is 0. So Jack is at position 0, Ahmed is at position 1, 2, and 3. So there are 4, but starting with 0, 0 to 3 are 4 indices. So this is the 0th index, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So that's what we have printed here. Now let's just apply this to this particular dictionary here, and let's see what happens with this. Here you will notice in both these scenarios I use something called len. Len is a rather useful function. Let me just add this little beautiful line which says slen, or string length, is equal to len of my list, and I will say print slen. Okay, I want to say something like slen is plus slen. Okay, but here is another problem, because it doesn't like that as a number. So don't forget to convert that with str as we did before. So there we go. Slen is 4. Now what if we want to do something like quick formatting? Hold on, there's an extra values there. This time I did not use str off, but I said I wanted a formatted string with prefixing the string with an F. So if a string starts with an F outside the code and you place these variables here, then it will format that particular thing. Let's just print the index every time we print. Okay, let's just make it interesting. Index is index, right? And a new line. Let's just leave it with that. So you see, I have taken my index also and printed it along with the loop. But what we are doing here is a loop process. Index is always 0, so it starts with this and continues to run until on the same position unless you manually increment it. So I wanted Jack, so it printed Jack. Then if I have to go to Ahmed, I had to say I need the next one. So I'm saying the value for index is index plus 1. So it added 1, my index becomes, from 0 it becomes 1, it prints Ahmed. Then again, it increases the index, goes to Jose, prints Jose, and then it prints Amit, which is the last value. But now what happens is the length of this particular list has exhausted. So therefore, it cannot run any further because there's nothing further here, right? We don't want the application to crash. So what we did is, so we put a condition here. But here, if you see, for has automatically taken care of A, looking for the length, and doing this increment. So these two things have been covered for you, making your life a lot easier with the for loop. So now let's just try the same thing with dictionary, as you would have expected. There is no difference really. But here we have used the formatted string just to make our life easier. So we saw str, how to convert the string. We saw the f for formatting a string. We saw a comparison of while and for. Right, so I think this is a good point to stop. Take a shot at these things. You could even use a nested loop for this. That, like they say, there are all the roads lead to Rome. So try this out, and there are many ways you can reach the same solution. I hope this gives you a good starting point. Apart from that, what we covered in terms of basics is the arrow. If I click on a box, because this is not the last one, I can move this down, and I can also use the up arrow to move it up. That's the other piece. And we also saw how to open a file which you have put in Google Drive. So when I'm using Google Collaboratory, if you are ever looking for